Okay, and here it is, time for chapter 2 of This Is My Life. And yeah, as you saw, I have changed my clothes since chapter 1. We have picked up a sponsor. Yeah, but I'll just let you read all about it, I'm sure, and we're going to talk about that. We're going to launch right into chapter 2 here. I just got done watching chapter 1, and to remind me, see if I left something out, and if I need to, if I have to correct myself, anything like that. One thing I should have said in chapter 1, but so I'll just say here in chapter 2, when I was talking about Grandpa Hahn, of course I was talking about Ernest, Bud's dad, Grandpa Hahn. He died also in 1970, along with Grandma Gehring, although in a different set of circumstances. He had diabetes, as I recall. See that? Well, I don't recall that. Rather, I was told that. And matter of fact, he was when it was possible. He was one of the first people to do clinical trials with insulin. And so that's that. He managed to live 80 years. He had real bad diabetes around in the 50s, and so he was able to, and so he lived another 20 years thanks to insulin. So if y'all are a diabetic and you're on insulin, you can thank folks like Ernest. He was a great grandfather by adoption. Because, see, Bud was not my biological grandfather, and I didn't, it kind of did, but but not quite changed how I felt. Bud was a rather interesting individual to get to know, and it was kind of it was kind of a conflicting time back when I was told about my biological grandfather, Wilbur Gehring Sr., because he sounded like an interesting fellow, someone that I would like to get to know. Unfortunately, he died a few years before I was born, so I never got to know him. And of course, like I said in the previous chapter, I didn't get to know Butch either. So in a way, both of them are just pictures on a wall at Grandma's house, except for the fact that there are stories, and I am grateful to those who tell the stories, even if the stories don't tell a flattering picture. You get to, it's all a part of that folklore, and they talk about, I remember, I don't remember it at the time, but of course, but my mom used to talk about how Grandma Gehring would have a fit every time Joanne Castle played the Piani at the Lawrence Welk show. And why are we talking about this? Well, we got to get back to, okay, the name of this chapter is at school, at work, and at play. So let's get to that, because we got to get to it. And I remember the first day of school. I had my little writing tablet. I had my little Peanuts lunch box. And I had back then the thermos had a glass container on the inside, and I busted that sucker. And for some reason, that made the thermos unusable. So my parents, being they got me a Scooby-Doo thermos. So it was kind of it didn't quite match, but being fashionable is tough when you're lower income folks there. But, and so that was before the school lunch program took over and forced us to eat vegetables, and that's another story altogether. because I think that was about my second grade when they did that. And see, we had electricity. Oh, I probably should mention, and, in case you young folks probably are not aware of this, but I got my education not behind the barn, not like the song said, but I took my elementary education was primarily at rural schools. There was a Valley School, kindergarten to the 4th grade. I took 5th and 6th grade at the Holabird Elementary School in beautiful downtown Holabird, which the building is still standing, but it hasn't served an educational purpose since I left way back around 1981, I believe it was. And so, and after that, we had to go way up north, halfway to Gettysburg, and to the Valley Township schools. And now, when I started out school back in the 70s, there was all kinds of rural schools out there. There were, I think Loomis was even going at that time. Loomis School, the school building was still standing, and it, I don't know, someone bought the building and moved it out, and we'll talk about that later if we have to. But and there were different, rural schools. I remember Pratt School, Illinois, Washington, Franklin, of course, and because we all competed at Rally Day, and Stefan, I think, and well, Rice Lake was also. Did I say Rice Lake? Well, anyhow, that's okay. So, Spring Lake, I don't think there was a Spring Lake Township School at that time. But we had all kinds of, and we competed at Rally Day, in May at the end of the school year, and it was all kind of fun like that there. If you enjoyed that kind of thing, which I really didn't, that's okay. I remember, I didn't mind the 50-yard dash and the baseball throw and the football throw. But one thing I lived in fear of was the relay race. See, back then, you had a hard-boiled egg, and you carried it, and then the next fella carried it, Eventually, the last guy had to open up that hard-boiled egg, pop it in the mouth, swallow it, open your mouth, and show everybody swallow the son of a gun. Hard-boiled eggs is something I just don't care about. Now, I don't mind you a fried egg. I don't mind a fried egg. I don't mind, I had poached eggs, scrambled eggs. But that hard-boiled egg, I don't believe I still can't. So, I would have, that was my biggest fear. That I did anything I could to avoid that relay race, because I did not want no part of that. And so I would have rather run a 200-yard dash than eat a hard-boiled egg. That's schools where we got to know the Beestroms. They were Bill Beestrom, the father of this. He had like 6 or 7 kids, and Bill and Gloria they had Bob, Diane, Tina, Karen, Debbie, and Billy. I guess that's review it. Bob, Diane, Tina, Karen, Debbie, Billy. All right, so that's 6. All right. So I don't think I left anyone out. They had quite a house. As far as I was concerned, that was a mansion right there. And that was all part of the Bar JZ spread. He worked for John, and I don't know. There was, for some reason, well, John, he had Don coming in to work for him there. I think, yeah, Don and Peg moved into that house after the Beasters moved out. So it must have been because of that they moved, and they moved into town, and he started working at the co-op, putting in propane, and eventually he moved out west to somewhere in Wyoming. I understand he's retired now and has a place out in the country near Harold, South Dakota, back home. So that's nice. This is going to be a little longer chapter than last week because the memories are just coming in fast and furious here. But, and for some reason we're not talking about me. We got to get to talking about me. Okay, and well, but that was, of course we had Kinda, Charlie and Velta had Kim. She was, and Peggy Jo Eckstein. She was, now, Kim, Kinda, Peggy Jo Eckstein, they did not have, they had siblings, they just weren't being educated at that time. They were being educated, well, they had all graduated from elementary school, and their siblings had, and so they weren't part of that. But, and there was Danny Carmen, who was, he was there for a year. We had the Lamans, Penny and Bobby. They lived at the Ziltner place. You either owned your land or you had a hired man. That was basically it. And I kind of wondered, from all intensive purposes there, it appeared that my dad was the hired help, but Granddad was the boss. Well, anyhow, while we're talking about that, yes, there was at work. See, back before child labor become a big thing, you know how terrible it is for kids to get off the couch and get their butt off the couch and do some work. Well, I can't talk about my brothers too much, but I know I did a whole lot. We was out there in the pig pen scooping up the leftover barley. That is, what's left over of the barley after the pigs are done eating it, if you know what I mean. And we worked cattle, all kind of stuff like that in the summertime, and I don't remember doing too much with the sheep. My dad, that was the first thing my dad got rid of when he was able to afford it, was to get rid of it. When he took over the management. Granddad, he didn't mind sheep too much, but my dad, he hated that sheep. At least that's the impression I got. If I'm wrong, there's the comment section there. So let me know when I'm wrong. So that's, I eventually mowed hay. Sometimes I even raked it. Never did bale it though. That was Darryl. Oh my goodness, Darryl. He knew his way around a tractor. Let me tell you, and he still does if he has to. And I don't know, Dougie might have done. I think he might have done his fair share of raking and whatnot, and there are different things. I could operate one of them farm hands, but when it come to like discing and vibrashanking and all that kind of stuff. I had a hard time with the concept of, you push it in, and that you take up the lever, and that was supposed to put down the machine, and when you bring it down, that was supposed to bring the vibrashank or whatever back up, or the plow or the chisel or whatever it is you're working back. I just that whole mechanical concept eluded me, which of course is one of the reasons why people thought I was adopted, and that was kind of a confusing time for me, because I got to thinking, what if I was adopted? And that was the thing. I don't know that I don't know. My parents never said anything like that. Well, my dad used to say, if you was my kid, I'd learn you something, but that was a different story altogether. That's the same thing Granddad used to say, if he was my kid, I'd learn him something. Well, we'll make like your kid and learn him something. But I don't remember if my brothers were involved in any of that. But I know there's a lot of folks asked me if I was adopted, because you sure don't act like the rest of your relatives. Well, I don't. And there's nothing wrong with the way I just being myself. That was my mother's primary advice, was be yourself. But how can I get chicks to dig me? And she said, be yourself. Well, she lied about that, but that's neither here nor there. And usually my mother told the truth. On that occasion, she told a big old lie. And that was she should have said, you might want to look into some sort of improvement program or something like that. But it was never. Of course, I still would go over to Grandma Burgett's, and we would, because she had a cookie jar, and she had Search for Tomorrow, which we talked about. Search for Tomorrow, brought to you by Mr. Clean. Well, there was something about that show that I don't know. It intrigued me as I was a young man. I remember Morgan Fairchild. Now, I know why I liked her when I was a horny teenager. When I was only 10 years old, I'm not sure what the deal was there. I just know that she was, she was, her character, rather, Morgan Fairchild's character, Jennifer. Well, she was married to Scott Phillips, and here I'm talking about somebody else, but this is it's just one of the things I remember. See, Jennifer, she was married to this Scott Phillips, and he was kind of hot for this gal named Kathy, and so he dumped Jennifer for whatever reason. I don't understand that. She was fine. I need to tell you, she was fine. She was excellent. You look up perfection in the dictionary. That was just Jennifer. As Morgan Fairchild as Jennifer. Morgan Fairchild still look good. She was born around 1950, because she started the show in 1974. So she was 24 at that time. So 1950 here, so she's 67 years old, and she's fine. And she's gonna be on another television daytime drama called Days of Our Lives. And if I had television, I'd watch that. Okay. Ooh, starting to get one. And if this was the Jerry Hinkle program, which it isn't, I tell you, it's getting hot in here in the Washington Kringen studio, but I can't look out the window because I done installed the air conditioning into the Dave Dedrick window. So, okay, to make a long story even longer, Jennifer, after Scott left her, she started messing around with this married lawyer. Well, the married lawyer decided to go back to his wife, and poor old Jennifer, she was 0 for 2 in the romance department, because she didn't want, back in 1976, when things were starting to go downhill for poor old Jennifer. I was only 9 years old at the time, so So she left about, I guess it was, she ended up killing this John, the married lawyer. She killed his wife Eunice, and she somehow she was able to hide the gun in his apartment. And of course, that's the first place people would look. I don't know what she was thinking, but see, she was loopy. She was criminally insane. What I'm trying to tell you, she was nuts. She's nuts to look at, but she was nuts. That's probably why all these fellas wanted to get away from her. Anyhow, so she started thinking, John, we're talking to her lawyer, or the fella, the married lawyer that she's messing around with after Scott left her. So she said, well, now, he says, well, I want to be with you, but I got the wife here, so if you kill Eunice, then we can be together. Well, okay, so she killed Eunice, and for some reason, he didn't want to get with her after that. Which confused her. She said, you don't have to pretend around me, because, she's dead now, we can be well, no. Because he was kind of sweet on his Eunice's older sister. That's typical soap opera stuff. There's nothing changed, 1977, 2017, it's been 40 years, the same old thing. I don't know why they call them soap operas. They filthy, that's what shut up. San Francisco. Okay, we got it. Okay, well, that was what was going on in Grandma's house. And so that was, and we did other things. I tell you, my dad taught us the value of hard work, going out there in the pig pen and scooping up the hog leavings and feeding the ground barley to the hogs and making sure that they had fresh hay to do their business in and all that, and taking care of the horses, and there wasn't so much, like I said, there wasn't too much in the way of sheep or chickens, anything like that. There was when I was little, but soon it got phased out. We used to have horses, and we don't, and we had Mary Legs and Brownie and different ones. We had a horse called Garrity, Granddad had a horse named Brutus, but I never got to see him. Anyhow, we might go a full half hour on this, because I just have all this to say, and I just can't stop talking. Anyhow, so that's the horses part of it. Like I say, he installed the value of hard work, and the hogs, I tell you, my dad liked to watch that Hee-Haw program, and I did too. That was one of the things we had in common back then. And every once in a while, a hog would have trouble giving birth, and he'd go back into the hog house during commercial breaks and whatnot to make sure that the hogs was doing well. I'm not sure what when we was pegging, I'm not sure what he could have done to help out, and I was never called upon to do that for whatever reason. And I don't know. I kind of regret that, because I don't know. It's just one of those things. But I should have been more proactive around there, being the oldest son and all that. Yeah. But it was just well. I'll admit, entertainment was just too much importance back then, because I thought, quite foolishly, as I look back, I thought that I could I could be an actor in the TV or in the movies or something like that, and I didn't realize that it wasn't, being an actor wasn't as easy as it looked. Watching Jennifer on the show there, and Morgan Fairchild as Jennifer, rather. And, watching The Little House on the Prairie, Laura Ingalls Wilder back here. And the one thing about that, Laura Ingalls Wilder, well, she was Laura Ingalls on the show. She and Mary went to a country school a lot like ours, so I had no idea that there was, back when I was growing up, I had no idea that there was an elementary school where you had to get to class by the second bell. So high school was quite an adjustment for me there. But and the flag pledge. Oh, I remember the duties. They had the two people to raise the flag and lower the flag and fold up the flag at the end of the day. And then they had a fellow that washed the blackboard, or a girl. Someone washed the blackboard, someone dusted the erasers, and someone took care of all the water and dumping out the old water. And I don't know, someone brought the new water in. See, we didn't have running water at Valley School. We had to rely on someone to provide us with water. And in case we had to answer nature's call, there was this thing called the outhouse. And y'all who are growing up nowadays probably have no idea what that is all about. So I'll tell you, usually you feel like you gotta go, and you gotta go. So you go to the restroom in the schoolhouse, but there was no restroom in the schoolhouse. We had to go outside. It was outside of the schoolhouse. You walk down the path there, or run if you really had to. You do your business, and you clean yourself off as best you can. And then you get back to your duties. You get back to your schoolwork after that. And there was recesses and just all kinds of pum pull away, and cops and robbers, and shadow tag, and all kinds of stuff like that there. Red Rover, send someone right over. And any eye over, you take the baseball, or the softball, you throw it up over the schoolhouse. Somebody tries to catch it on the other side, and then flippity floop, and all kind of stuff like that there. Hide and go seek. That was all kinds of fun right there. Today's kids, they don't know. And, I guess in a way, when I see that kids would rather be on the computer and on their cell phones killing zombies, says I can't really be too hypocritical of that, because I know when I was growing up, I wasn't too much interested in being active my own self, and maybe I was definitely wrong. And of course, there was always Grandma Agnes's house. I tell you, we had all kinds of fun in Grandma's basement there. There was a pool table and a record player. You could play 45s on 78 speed, and you can play it on 32 speed, and you dance slow at the 32, and then 78 you really put the boogie down in the thing. And we listened to all kinds of I Like Onions, and that's an actual song. I don't like shoes that pinch your toes, so people that scourge you with a garden hose. But, ooh, I like onions. That's onions, ha ha ha. Onions, ha ha ha. That's a good song. If you can go on YouTube and search that Son of a Gun. You see, you can't do it, but you can't listen to it at 78 RPM or even 32, but you can't. It is a good one. And of course, there was putting the grenadine syrup in the 7-Up. That was always kind of fun. That was our idea of a mixed drink. Well, I think we should wind this up. We'll talk about some more of this later on. So until then, God be with you, and do the best you can. And get out of my bathroom, because you're invading my privacy. Come on, the show's over.